Hey everybody, this is Claire, and this is Small Joyful Things. As always, I go to thrift stores or estate sales, or sometimes I buy things from Craigslist, and I'm always looking for things that I find interesting, or I think you guys would find interesting. As you can see here, I'm still using the new iPad, and I'm not sure I'm happy about the gloss thing. Like, you can just see my reflection there, and I don't think that's something I'm going to be able to fix, but we'll live with it. Sorry that I couldn't post last week. I'm afraid there was a major renovation going on in my home, and I had no place to actually film because everywhere was just covered in boxes, which is neither here nor there. Now, here's what I've got today. Spoilers. So what I have is a sugar bowl, and you can see just from the size of it, it's remarkably big for a sugar bowl. It's not going to stand, is it? So I think I'll just have to put it like this so you can actually see the extent of it. This is a sugar bowl and a lid in quite heavy glass. Be careful with it now. So I bought this in a thrift store, and I believe I paid $7 for it. And essentially I got it because when I held it up and kind of felt the weight of it, I thought, this is definitely good stuff. This is like good glass. I also flashed it with my black light just to see basically how it reacted. The yellowish kind of limey yellow kind of glow is definitely indicates like older glass. It seems to be a thing, like if it's modern, it tends to not react under the black light at all. Older stuff tends to have some kind of a green or yellow green kind of a flash. And obviously uranium glass will be bright neon green. And this showed up, and I thought, that's interesting. And then I ended up looking at it more closely, and you can just about see that it has some small amount of wear on the underside. Like very tiny amount. It's got some scratches. You know, it's definitely been used. It does not have the signs of it being used much, I should say. It has definitely been used. Now, when I kind of picked it up and kind of turned it over and I felt it and then looked at the lid and everything, I thought, everything in my instinct is saying that this is early American pattern glass, but it's in too good a condition. It does not make sense that this would be EAPG, because it's perfect otherwise. There's no chips, there's no cracks, there's no wear at the top here. I can't find a single thing wrong with it. There isn't even a whole lot of wear in the pattern itself. It's all just in this. You can see in the light there, it is in amazing condition. And I have run my hands all over it. I can find absolutely no cracks. There's no chips taken out of it. It is perfect. And this is as well. Like the lid is beautiful. There's because obviously it has been used. There's a little bit of wear on the inside where we've actually had contact with that. But like normally if you see like very old glass or whatever, it'll have chips taken out here, or it'll have it'll have a lot of wear on the underside. This, not the case. It is, for all intents and purposes, it is perfect. So hopefully you'd understand that, like, I was kind of completely thrown by it by a little bit, but I thought for $7, I want to know more about this. Like, it's very clearly pressed glass, it's high quality. You can see that it's got a lovely kind of a sparkle to it. That, I think, was good enough for me to kind of, make the decision to actually get it. Now, there were a few other kind of aspects of it which I found interesting, and this will probably be difficult to see, but this is slightly off center. It's probably may not be obvious on camera or whatever, but it is just kind of very tiny amount of skew. Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, there's yeah, I can't really explain it. There is definitely a tiny bit of a skewness here, and I can imagine that it came essentially from being pulled out of the mold, and then it just kind of, slipped a line a little bit. They still decided obviously it was good enough to sell. Other thing about it here as well, you can see there's a tiny focus. Come on, camera. There we go. You can see there's a tiny little bit in there from the pressed glass mold that they didn't quite get rid of. This, by the way, has, like, I've seen some very old glass or whatever that has that kind of extra flashing that they never really got rid of. And it sometimes leaves a very rough surface that can be quite sharp. Not in this case, they did actually clean it up. And you can see there's none at all. So I got out in the thrift store and I was reasonably sure that what I had was early American pattern glass. Okay. And the challenge was, how do you find it? Because the stuff is fairly tricky to identify, even though we have some incredibly good resources for actually finding out this information. So if we go to, first of all here, what is early American pattern glass? I'll obviously post a link to this in the description. EAPG, as is known, is notifications, apparently. So EAPG, as is known, is essentially the glass that was produced in America and is specifically pressware. It's not like blown glass or whatever, that's something else. It is pressed glass. It was made in a series of patterns. It's always dinnerware, and it was made from about 1850 up to 1910. And it was like the nice kind of glass of the common man kind of thing. The like rich people or whatever would have blown glass, and they would have like early American brilliant cut, the stuff that was handmade, you know, the good stuff. Not so much this. This is for the average housewife kind of thing. And you can, there's a lot of information here about to give you kind of like an overview of it. EAPG is the stuff that would have transitioned into depression glass essentially after about the 1910s, 1920s. And it, you know, obviously it then evolved into mid-century design and all that. But like this is essentially the forerunner to depression wear. So apart from that, like, did we actually find out what this is? And bearing in mind, this took me several days, okay? Now, the gold standard is the EAPGS database. And that is how I eventually found this. The EAPGS is the Early American Pattern Glass Society. They essentially have this enormous database they put up online, and they categorize the patterns that they have found or identified through like ancient catalogues and like private collections and whatever. They essentially go through and they categorize them all by the shape and by what common motifs they have, like the design, and then any other kind of common elements they've got, like the maker. They'll list the maker and what have you as well. And you can essentially go in and say, okay, I'm looking for all the sugar bowls that you've got that have this kind of pattern or have like circles or arches or whatever. And part of the reason that this was challenging is because this pattern here is called hobnail, and there is another pattern that you may know, which is essentially just like the raised dots or whatever, which is also called hobnail. And it made it very difficult to find this pattern to begin with. I kept calling it other things like, is it diamond point, or is it you know, a crosshatch or something like that. And you have to be kind of specific about your terms if you're going to go searching. But eventually I just said, look, okay, I must be getting something wrong about this pattern. This is something too nice to just be unidentified. And eventually I've managed to figure out that this type of kind of stipple pattern is called hobnail. And then when I went back to the database and actually searched for a sugar bowl hobnail, I found these. Westmoreland Specialty Co. They made special glass, number 550, and they were based out of Grapeville, as far as I know, that's Pennsylvania. And this is the AKA pattern. AKA in this case is that, like, essentially it's the name that's given to it by collectors. It's not the official name, it's just kind of the one that they've agreed that we're just going to call this pattern this in order to make it easier to identify. And they called it High Hob. And here's some examples of it. And you can see that these ones here have these amazing red flashing on the curved parts here. Obviously I don't have it in this case. Lots and lots of examples. They did it in different colors and everything as well. The one with the red flashing is the one that I see the most, like most pictures of. And obviously they did a complete set. They did a set of tableware or dinnerware. And these are the cruets, I think, the vinegar cruets. Then there's a set of bowls. The bowls are particularly nice. Whole set there. And the big massive pictures. Obviously theirs isn't clear. And you can see the commonalities here. Obviously the big swoops, these lovely kind of almost Art Deco handles. And here's our original catalogue page from 1911. And this is fantastic. This is excellent. This basically gives us an exact date when the pattern came out. At the very end of the EAPG era, just before they kind of went into the Depression, right? Or 1911, or before they got into kind of Depression era glass, which is brilliant. there you go. Fantastic. So what do we know about Westmoreland? They were around in like the late 19th century, and there's a little bit here about them. They decided to set up their company in Grapeville, and because of the property, a large source of natural loss. So they have the president of the company. There was what they were actually involved in, and Westmoreland really took off around the 1920s, and they were making milk glass. This kind of came from before that age. 1921, the original founder left the company, started his own glass company, something else. And at that point, I think that they started to get into the milk glass stuff. So this is essentially just prior to this. This is like just before Westmoreland really got big. They were making stuff like this. I have to say the glass itself is incredibly fine. just really lovely. Westmoreland, the company, shut down in the 1984. It was gone. Yeah. It was known for high quality glass for the whole run of its existence. And this is stuff from the very early era. Anyway, what else can we say about it? The big question is always, I paid $7 for it. How much is it actually worth? And come on. The answer to that, when it's clear, is usually almost nothing, even in excellent condition. I have taken a look at some of the listings, and you can see that they did the High Hob pattern. Oh, no, there you go. That was apparently the 1980s one. Yeah, so they did the High Hob pattern. They did quite a bit or whatever, but they also, it doesn't sell, not even the old stuff. Yeah, what can you do? I did check to see, like, were there any sold listings? There really aren't. There is another sugar bowl listed with it as lid for selling for about $10. It is the curse of cleared glassware, even the good stuff from the early 20th century. It does not sell at all. Yeah. So the long and short of it is that I'm probably going to be keeping this simply because it's in such good nick. I'm incredibly impressed with the quality of it. It really is just like, it's lasted this long. It's in great shape. I think, you know what, I could very easily use it for something. I'm sure I'll find a place to put it or something to do with it. I'm not going to send it back to a thrift store, and I think I'm not going to sell it, not for the time being anyway. So here you go. This is my small joyful thing for the day. I hope you guys like it as well. Thank you very much for watching.